Hey rich friends, welcome back to my channel. Let's talk about procrastination. Procrastinating is a huge deterrent and it can be a major roadblock on your way to becoming successful and building wealth. Let's say you have a massive idea to start a company that could eventually become a huge deal, but you procrastinate on the little things like registering the business or preparing your pitch for investors. That idea is wasted. Procrastination is a common issue that affects many people in different ways. Statistics reveal that about 20% of adults are chronic procrastinators. If you've ever tried to stop procrastinating, then I'm sure that you would agree with me that it is a very difficult thing to do. But what if I told you that the reason why many of us struggle to stop procrastinating is because we have failed to understand what procrastination truly is? Just like a doctor cannot truly treat a disease that they've not accurately diagnosed, you cannot overcome procrastination if you do not understand what it is and why you specifically procrastinate. This video will be split into two sections. In the first section, I'm going to provide you an in-depth understanding of what procrastination is and prove to you that procrastination is actually not a bad thing. And in the second half, I'm going to show you how to finally and permanently cure yourself of procrastination. So in very basic terms, procrastination is when we avoid or fail to do a task that we have planned for no good reason, even though we know that that thing that we're avoiding is good for us. On the surface, procrastination looks like self-sabotage, because if I know that drinking another cup of bubble tea is bad for my health goals, why have I drank 3? It doesn't make sense logically. If I know that I need to prepare for an interview so that I can do well and get a better job, but I fail to prepare for that interview, is illogical. Why would I do that? On the surface, procrastination looks like self-sabotage. But the truth is, what causes procrastination is diverse and is different from person to person. So my procrastination will not look like somebody else's procrastination, even though we are all doing the same thing. Most times, procrastination is caused by emotional factors like fear of failure, low self-esteem, lack of emotional regulation, and depression. So while procrastination is the obvious enemy and we are quick to go down the rabbit hole of how can I avoid or stop procrastinating, we many times fail to acknowledge that there are other factors behind that procrastination, and those are the true enemy. Those are the true problems. If you take away the cause, the symptom will disappear. Procrastination is the symptom, and depending on the person, the cause of procrastination could be fear, could be depression, could be low self-esteem, or any other emotional reason. So when it comes down to it, procrastination is actually a defense mechanism. Procrastination is your brain's method of protecting you from a perceived threat. Let's say that you are scared of snakes. You are deathly afraid of snakes. If I present a snake to you, whether the snake is living or dead, your immediate gut reaction will be for you to run in the other direction. You will not think logically about, does the snake have poison? You will not stop to consider if it is a real or a fake snake. You will not stop to consider if I can control the snake. Your gut reaction will be, get out now. In this example, you running away is not the enemy, right? The snake is the issue. You running away is your body and brain's way of protecting you from the threat of the snake harming you. This is exactly what procrastination is to the brain. So for example, you realize that you need to mail your boss to ask for a raise, but the thought of mailing your boss to ask for a raise produces fear in you. Immediately you are afraid of that thing. Your brain sees mailing your boss as a threat, and your brain responds to that threat by you procrastinating. So all of a sudden, texting your friend seems more important in that moment, and you choose to text your friend instead of mailing your boss. There's a part of your brain that is known as the amygdala. The amygdala part of your brain is responsible for what we know as the fight or flight response. When your brain perceives a threat, your amygdala releases hormones like adrenaline that puts your entire body in a fight or flight state. When you are in this state, you are in a panic state. And while your body is in this panic state, the amygdala part of your brain overpowers the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is a part of the brain that is responsible for logic, for logical reasoning. If I show you black and white and I ask you, which is black, which is white, in that moment, you are engaging your prefrontal cortex, and you can decide, if you know what colors are, that this is black, this is white. The same way, in a calm state, when everything is okay, If I present you two decisions between good and evil, you engage your prefrontal cortex, and most times you should choose, good. This is your logical brain. But when your brain perceives a threat, the amygdala kicks into action. It pumps your body full of adrenaline. It puts you in a fight or flight state. And in this state, your prefrontal cortex is overpowered. What that basically means is you are not thinking rationally. No matter how hard you try to be logical, in that moment, it is very, very difficult for you to think logically. And this is not because you are bad or you are lazy. This is just science, hormone, brain juice working against you. And as I'm saying this, you may be thinking, really? Is procrastination that deep? The answer is yes. And the reason why you're thinking that right now is because now that you're watching this video, you are engaging from your prefrontal cortex. So you are thinking about what I'm saying and you are saying, no, it shouldn't be. Right now, most likely, you are not in a life and death situation. You are not in a fearful state. You are in a calm, okay state, and you're operating from a prefrontal cortex. What I want to pass across to you is, in those moments when you are procrastinating, even though it doesn't look like it, your brain actually is in a flight or fight state, and you are not thinking rationally. So, procrastination is a form of stress relief. It's a form of protection that your brain engages in. If you want to stop procrastinating, you need to take away the stress. You need to take away whatever, is causing that stress in that moment, whatever is putting your brain in a fight or flight state. And this is very common in students. When an exam or a test that you do not like, maybe you hate mathematics, right? And the exam is coming up. Studies have shown that students will put off studying for the subject that they hate the most because they are trying to avoid, that panic state. So they will procrastinate on reading that. And by procrastinating on reading that, they would not have enough time to actually study that subject, which will eventually lead to them failing the subject, which will also come back to perpetuate the fear they have of that subject. Sometimes what causes procrastination is lack of emotional regulation or depression. Think about it this way. When you are going through a major stressful event in your life, so let's say you are going through a breakup, or let's say you are a parent and you have a sick child, in those moments, it is really, really hard for you to motivate yourself to do anything important. All of a sudden, nothing seems urgent. Assignments don't really mean that much to you. Promises you made to anybody doesn't really mean that much to you. What is truly happening in your brain is that you are experiencing a stressor, right? Something is stressing you on the outside, and your brain is doing its job of protecting you, of not adding extra stress to your life. So that's why your brain causes you to procrastinate. Now, with this understanding that we have established of what procrastination is and what is actually happening in your brain when you're procrastinating, let's now talk about how you can stop procrastinating. And there are two ways that research has shown are effective to stopping procrastination. First way is to be self-aware. Is to make the unconscious things conscious. Now, what do I mean by this? The next time you find yourself procrastinating, and it could be a thing of like you already procrastinated and you notice that, oh my God, I just procrastinated for the last 30 minutes. The next time you find yourself procrastinating, you need to take 5 minutes to ask yourself why. What is the real reason? Don't just say, oh, I procrastinated. That is the symptom. Ask yourself, why did I procrastinate? So back to my earlier example. Again, you are this employee that is trying to get a raise at work, but you just caught yourself procrastinating from sending that email for the third time in a row. You just finished watching my video. So you take 5 minutes to ask yourself, why am I procrastinating from doing this? And just a few minutes of thinking, you realize that the reason why you procrastinated from sending the email is because you are afraid of, rejection. You are afraid of your boss saying no. You are afraid that, oh, if he says no, how do I look him in the face tomorrow? Or maybe you're afraid of what other people will think. Maybe you're afraid that if your colleagues learned about you asking for a promotion or for a raise, they will not like you, they will look at you in a negative light. That is the true reason behind the procrastination. By being self-aware, by bringing out the true thing behind your procrastination, you can then solve that problem, right? You can then ask yourself, is this true? Oh, I'm afraid of procrastination. Is this true, right? How likely is it that your boss would reject your proposal? You'd be like, oh, I'm a high-performing employee. I've gotten tons of positive reviews over the years. I've added tons of value to this, unit or to this company. I stand a good chance of getting this raise, right? By doing that, you may be able to lessen the fear. Or if it's the fear of your colleagues finding out, you can ask yourself the question of, okay, how likely is it that my colleagues will find out? Very high, very low. If they find out, how would that actually impact me? Like, is that the worst thing that will happen? Many times when we put our fears on paper and we look at our fears, and we take a honest look at our fears, we will realize that most of our fears are actually just in our head, made up occurrences in our brain that are not real. Or even if they are real, we may be able to come up with alternative solutions or alternative perspectives to mitigate that fear. And just by being self-aware, just by recognizing what is holding you back, and by tackling that thing that is holding you back, you will find it way easier, to stop procrastinating. And a good example of this is I'm that employee. I'm not asking for a raise, but sometimes I struggle with sending emails to people at work. And the reason for me is, again, that fear of rejection, of will they answer, or when they answer, will their answer be positive? But by bringing that fear out to the open, I'm able to tell myself that I can't control how someone else reacts to my email, but I can control my action. Do I need to send this email? Yes. What is the best thing that can happen? The best thing that can happen is that this person responds to my email favorably. What is the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing that can happen is that this person ignores my email. Would I die? No. Then I just send the email, right? I have been able to talk myself out of multiple sessions of procrastination just by being aware and calling out that fear. The second way of breaking procrastination is by breaking a habit. Procrastination is a habit. If you are someone that is a chronic procrastinator who always procrastinates, you may realize that it may not even be fear that is holding you back. It may just be, comfort. You have become comfortable, right, with procrastinating, and you've made a habit of it. When you realize that, okay, this has become a habit of mine, then very easy. Every habit follows the same 3 steps. Every habit has a cue, a routine, and a reward. The cue is the trigger. Something always happens that kicks a habit in motion. The routine is the action that you take in that habit, and the reward is the positive feeling or benefits that you get by engaging in that habit. Back to this email. Let's say I've just made it into a habit. The trigger for me would be the thought of, oh, it's time for me to send this email. The routine will be me refusing to send the email, ignoring, just not sending the email and doing something else. That's the routine. And the reward that I've gotten from engaging that habit is I've gotten temporal pleasure. I've gotten temporal peace of mind by not sending that email. So that's the circle, right, of every habit. Once I realize that my procrastination is a habit, my procrastination is not a response to fear, it is just a lazy habit, then you can break it. And because habits follow this circle, if you break any point in the circle, you break the habit. If I'm aware that I want to break my procrastination habit, immediately I get the trigger, right? I get the fear, it's time to send this email. I can break this habit by refusing to engage in the action that I've always engaged in. And one way that I have found effective personally in my life is by applying the 5-second rule. This 5-second rule was made popular by Mel Robbins. And it's very simple. Is whenever you find yourself about to procrastinate on something, count to 5 and then do something, anything. So back to this email. I'm sitting down at my desk. I need to send this email. I've already gotten the trigger. Oh my God. I don't want to send this email, blah, 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 blah. I'm having that self-talk. What I can do is I count 1 to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I tell myself, do something. So something could just be open the Outlook app on my laptop. Something could just be type a draft. Something could, it could be anything. Just do something for 5 minutes. So that's the rule. Count to 5 and do something for 5 minutes. And after 5 minutes, if you still feel the same way, you do not want to do it, then stop. But for most people, studies have shown that 80 to 85% of people will continue to do that thing for longer than 5 minutes. So this is a way to trick your brain. Just tell yourself that I will work on it just for 5 minutes. So I'm about to procrastinate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I start typing the email just for 5 minutes. If I finish typing the email in 5 minutes, I send it. If I don't finish typing the email after 5 minutes, I can stop, or I can just continue. And many times, you will find yourself continuing. If you do this over and over a few times, you would break this habit of procrastinating because you have essentially broken, the cycle. Let me know what you think about this video in the comment section below. If you care a lot about achieving goals, setting goals, and just being productive in general, then you will like my video about the 5 small habits that you can implement to become more productive. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.